Good evening, everyone. I'm April Joy Damian, as Ruth had mentioned, and I'm honored to be with all of you. So I'm a 2004 recipient of the New Leader Scholarship. As Ruth mentioned, I graduated Phi Beta Kappa with a Bachelor's of Arts in Ethnic Studies from UC Berkeley in 2006. I went on to complete my Master's in Medical Sciences from Harvard Medical School in 2012. And most recently, a PhD in Public Health from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in 2017, where I currently have a faculty appointment in the Department of Mental Health in addition to my full-time position in Washington, D.C. I think I'm done with school for now, but we'll see in a few years. But nonetheless, as the Philippine national hero Jose Rizal, who I quoted in my commencement speech at Berkeley 12 years ago, had said, "The person who does not know where he or she came from will never reach his or her final destination." I too cannot forget where I came from and how it has shaped my present reality. Friends, before I completed my degrees at arguably the best public university, medical and public health schools, not only in the nation, but in the world, I was a first-generation Filipino-Spanish girl raised by a single mother with cognitive challenges in the Western Addition and Tenderloin districts of San Francisco, the two neighborhoods that sandwich where we sit or stand today. Each day of my childhood felt like I was in battle. Battling to walk past the broken glass, needles, urinated streets, and police cars just to get to and from school. Battling with my mom, who struggled to pay the rent and keep food on the table. And above all, battling with my own fears and doubts as I wondered whether pursuing higher education was even a possibility, since I had no one in my immediate social circle show me that that was within reach. Fortunately, by being connected with the proper support systems, I've been able to come out of these battles victoriously and use my experiences to be a force of healing for others. So I would like to take the next few minutes sharing my reflections on the scholarly work that I pursued in response to the Freddie Gray tragedy and aftermath of the Baltimore unrest. So as Ruth had mentioned earlier, the death of 25-year-old African-American Baltimore City resident Freddie Gray while in police custody in April 2015 sparked local outrage, bringing national attention to the public health challenges facing Baltimore. Just to give you a few statistics, 9 out of 10 homicide victims are young African-American males. About 1 out of 3 youths in Baltimore and in urban cities have experienced 2 or more traumatic events. Chronic exposure to trauma, including violence and other adversities related to poverty, have long-term negative effects on functioning, particularly for children and adolescents whose stress responses are still developing. Trauma exposure likely plays a critical role in the high rates of school failure and risky behaviors among young people in urban inner cities. So as the Baltimore unrest ensued, I was connected with the Baltimore City Health Department Commissioner at the time, Dr. Leanna Nguyen, who invited me to join the health department as special assistant to the Deputy Health Commissioner. During that time, I led the health department's research efforts on the Healing Baltimore Trauma-Informed Care Initiative, funded through the U.S. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, otherwise known as SAMHSA. I spent the next months conducting pre- and post-training surveys and interviewing participants of the training initiative, including Baltimore City police officers, 311 call center operators, social workers, and other service providers about their experiences in the training. For example, as I found with one of my police officer interviewees, a police officer can learn about trauma-informed care and what they need to do to appropriately address trauma in a child and prevent re-traumatizing a child. However, if that same police officer works at a precinct where he's the only one that's been trained in trauma-informed care, then it makes it very difficult for him to initiate a cultural shift at that police department. Similarly, a social worker who has been trained in trauma-informed care might find it difficult to change how she interacts with a child with a history of trauma if she herself has not dealt with her own trauma, albeit trauma in her own life or vicarious trauma by virtue of dealing with traumatized individuals on a daily basis. The findings of the study that I conducted suggest that training may only be a starting point for enhancing service providers' capacities to address traumatized youth. I may be preaching to the choir here, but trauma is not unique to Baltimore. Trauma-related social challenges, including racism, poverty, violence, substance use, and mass incarceration were long-standing issues before The Wire, the Freddie Gray tragedy, and the Baltimore unrest brought attention to Smaltimore. In the midst of this work, I thought about my own experiences and traumatic exposures, having grown up in the Tenderloin and Western Addition. I recalled how I, out of curiosity, took the Adverse Childhood Experiences, or ACEs, survey, which includes 10 stressful or traumatic events in childhood that are strongly related with a wide range of health problems throughout a person's lifespan. I scored a 7 out of 10. Nonetheless, the gift and beauty of being a new leader scholar is belonging to a community of fellow scholar activists, friends, coaches, and mentors who remind us that our upbringings, our past, our circumstances don't have to keep us in bondage. With the proper support systems in place, not only have I acquired the research skills and academic credibility to validate the lived experiences of trauma-affected communities, but I have embraced my own vulnerabilities stemming from childhood, undergo my own healing process, and choose to use my platform to be a force of healing for others. So far, I've had all my papers for my dissertation published. I presented, thanks. I presented my research in over a dozen national conferences and local meetings. Sorry, this microphone is moving. It's okay. I currently serve as Director of Quality Innovation at the National Quality Forum, the nation's leading voice in how we measure health and healthcare quality in the US. In this role, I manage a portfolio of projects related to measure gaps in healthcare. It is both a privilege and a great responsibility to lead such meaningful work. I'll try not to cry at this part. I thank Ruth, Bill, and all of you who support the New Leaders Scholarship for believing in scholars like myself, so that we too are able to rise above the ashes of our challenges and be a beacon of hope and healing for others. Thank you.